Yo, 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 yo. What's good? What's good, my people? Ty Butler in the house on this Wednesday, March 11th, here in New York City. I am excited because my man Rich Cimini is about to join us in a couple minutes here. Got to talk about the New York Jets making news yesterday. I'm picking up my kids from school about 2 o'clock, and I see the reports. Geno Smith traded to the New York Jets. And listen, I've got some mixed feelings. First and foremost, hit me up in the chat if you want to chime in. Rich is going to join us at 1 o'clock, so about 8 minutes or so before we get to him. So let's make this a two-way conversation, y'all. Let's do it, man. You know how we do. I like to interact with the audience, get a little vibe going. So the mixed emotions about Geno Smith, and of course, follow me at Ty D Butler on my social media platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Ty D Butler. Mixed emotions because I was on television. This was Saturday night talking about Geno Smith because the question was posed to me. Essentially, are you in or out on Carson Wentz and Geno Smith? Because those rumors had been percolating. And I was like, man, I'm all the way out. First and foremost, Carson Wentz hasn't been good in half a decade. Man, 2017, he was fantastic, about to win the league MVP, got hurt, hasn't been the same since. So he is a career backup quarterback. If you're telling me that that guy who in the last 5 years has been inconsistent and injured is going to be my starting quarterback next year, I'll tell you I'm good. As far as Geno Smith is concerned, here's the deal. The last 4 years look like this for Geno. Pro Bowl, really good season. Seahawks went 10-7. And then last year was maybe the worst starting quarterback in football, not named Justin Fields. And so, did I want any part of that coming off of the year that he had? Especially because, if the Jets had it their way, they would be turning in their card to draft Fernando Mendoza. The reason why they cannot draft Fernando Mendoza is because of one Geno Smith, who was so bad last year. The Raiders end up with the number 1 pick. So coming off of a year like that, and in the back of my mind, I can't unsee that not once, but twice he failed here in New York with the Jets and with the Giants. And both times, he's like synonymous with some of the most embarrassing moments of the organization. With the Giants, he is the one who replaced Eli Manning. Eli Manning had the Iron Man streak going. Ben McAdoo was like, all right, time to get Geno Smith some reps in these games. So he's synonymous with that, which was embarrassing for the Giant organization. And then we know about him getting punched in his mouth, which ended up working out for the Jets, sad to say, because Fitzpatrick has the type of year that he did until he fell apart in week 17. But Geno, we saw what that looked like in New York. Now, maybe, and you listen to some of the comments he's had, speaking to Josina Anderson, like it's a full circle moment. He's embracing the challenge. Now, how much of that is he knows this is my only opportunity to start? That's it. Like, I've got no other shot. And so he has to say those things. He's not excited about returning, but he wants to be a starting quarterback. And the Jets are the only team that are offering him that slot. I'm not excited about this, but what I will say is I do like Geno, despite like my criticism of him that is obviously valid. I like Geno. When he was here with the Jets, I rooted for him. Obviously, I thought that there was some, I don't know if promise is the right word because that sounds too strong, but I thought that there was more potential with Geno, and the Jets, as they have done many occasions, spoiled that. And then I was in some ways proven to be correct when he had back-to-back Pro Bowl seasons for the Seahawks. And so this is where we land. He's the starting quarterback. The Jets are going to find another veteran, and then we'll see what they do in the draft. I don't want Ty Simpson. More on that in a moment. But he is either going to help deliver them the number 1 overall pick or force them to take however many of their first round picks they have next year, 3 in total, and try to move up to get their guy. I think the dangerous game people play with that like mental exercise, because I brought this up. I remember I was doing the afternoon show on ESPN New York with Jake Asman, who, shout out to him, man. We were doing the show, and I think it might have been Kirk Cousins we were talking about. And I said Kirk Cousins would be the perfect quarterback to come in here and spoil the plans for the 2027 draft. And his response to me was, well, because you are armed with so much capital, doesn't really matter because you can just trade up. And someone else said that to me on Twitter yesterday. And I was like, y'all think it's that easy? Just look at the situation the Jets are in now. They would love to, they have the assets to trade up. They would love to do that, to go get Mendoza. The problem is you are at the mercy of the people you're trading up with. And if those teams need quarterbacks, they're not going to trade with you. Now, the counterpoint to that is, in theory, next year's draft should have more promise. There should be more talent at quarterback, high-end talent at quarterback. That crop should be a lot more blossomed, right? But we thought that about this year's draft. That's how we ended up where we are now. And so, look, in theory, again, you'll have the assets to go trade up. It's just a matter of you could finish, and you very well, if Geno has a good year, will finish behind teams needing quarterbacks. The worst teams are those that finish this low in the draft and need quarterbacks for the most part. And we know who the teams are going to be. The Browns, the Cardinals, maybe the Dolphins. It feels like it's the same teams every year, right? The Jets. Those are going to be the same teams needing quarterbacks. And I guess maybe the Colts, who signed Daniel Jones to a 2-year, $88 million contract. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it'll be the same teams, as they always are, every single year looking for that quarterback. Maybe Carolina, if this Bryce Young thing doesn't go well this year, or as well as it did this past season. And so, yeah, I'm optimistic about the future because of the capital. Throw in the Falcons, right? They signed 2. I don't think that's going to go well. But you do have to realize, there is that same old Jet little mantra lingering there. My man Rich Cimini joins the show for the first time. Hard at work, busy. It's like every year, man. This is your Super Bowl. This is
this is the Super Bowl for Jet fans. Good to be with you, Ty.
What's up, my man? Rich Cimini joining us, ESPN reporter, covers the New York Jets. Been doing this a long time. You've been asked the same question, it feels like, every year. What are the Jets going to do at quarterback? You probably get tired of being asked that. You probably get tired of being asked that, but we did get our answer. We did get our answer yesterday, Geno Smith. So wanted to get your reaction to this move once you saw it, and I heard you on the K show when it broke. Once you saw it all come down the pike.
Here's the way I've been thinking about this a lot, and here's the way I would summarize it, Ty. It's not a great solution, but it's the best solution. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's Geno sad. Smith, Rich, it is sad.
It is sad. It's like I said on my video yesterday. I was doing a podcast video, and I said, I don't hate the trade. I just hate the situation that they're in. And it is sad because basically this was a marriage of convenience. It was a desperation move. That's why they had to make the trade they couldn't afford to take a chance on losing Geno signing as a free agent to another team. And so Muji was proactive and made the trade. They really didn't give up anything. And so they had to secure him that way. And it is sad. Geno, I applaud Geno. He's had a fine career after what he went through with the Jets. So I give him a lot of props for coming out of that mess. But he hasn't been a good quarterback the last couple of years. And I don't know why anyone would think he would just flip the switch and become a really good quarterback again. So, like I said, not a great solution, but probably the best solution for them.
So you look back the last 4 years of Geno, it's Pro Bowl, kind of a nice season, 10-7 with Seattle, and then things just fell apart once he got traded to the Raiders. And part of it is like they were a disaster, right? Like the offensive line was a mess. He contributed to that with his bad decisions. Pete Carroll felt like the game it might have passed him by, but I guess you're just kind of hoping like what we saw in those first 2 years with the Seahawks, where he was the Pro Bowl quarterback. Maybe that wasn't an aberration, and like everyone's going to be inspired by the Sam Darnold story. It's always going to go back to like, could we find the next Sam Darnold who, if we get him in our building and he's coached correctly and we put weapons around him, give him a great defense, is there some untapped potential? But I think we're just kind of reaching, right? Like that doesn't feel like how this is gonna go.
Yeah, this morning I did a little number crunching. So we talk about the last 4 years with Geno. We had the 2 years, 22 and 23 in Seattle, which were good years. And then the last two, not so good. So I looked this up, and I want to just throw this out at you. In the last 4 years. The good thing about Geno is that he's fourth in the league in completion percentage over the last 2 years, 68%. Very good mark. He's 11th in touchdown passes. 90 touchdown passes. Pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He is the most sacked quarterback in the last 4 years. And he's also had the most interceptions in the last 4 years with 52. And he's ranked 26th out of 38 quarterbacks in EPA per dropback. So that is a pretty good snapshot of what Geno is, because it incorporates his 2 good years and then his 2 bad years. And so I think that's what you're getting. You're getting a quarterback who's probably somewhere in the bottom, well, definitely in the bottom third of the league, probably in the mid-20s, I would say, in starting quarterbacks.
And also, just to focus on last year, maybe the worst starting quarterback in the league, not named Justin Fields. And I found this part interesting. Couple of things I found interesting, because I did read your piece from yesterday. You mentioned that the Jets had to trade for him because there would have been potential suitors, but I also saw this might have been the only place he was going to start. And so you think he would have gone somewhere else to be a backup?
I know the Vikings were interested in him. I believe the Steelers also might have been interested in him. So those are two situations where he may not have been the immediate starter right now, because you have JJ McCarthy, and then of course you have the Rodgers saga going on in Pittsburgh. But I think he could have gone to those places, especially Minnesota, with the idea that I might not be the starter now, but I'm pretty confident I can beat out JJ McCarthy. So I think the Jets, and it really, it is kind of sad that they have to do this. They almost had to, like I said, trade for the guy to eliminate the possibility of him wanting to go elsewhere. And not only that, Ty, they threw in a $1 million sweetener. You know, they basically threw in $1 million into the salary. They didn't have to. I call it the Jets tax. They had to pay a Jets tax to go. So they're only paying him $3.3 million this year. The Raiders are on the hook for a 16 and change. So it's really a minuscule amount of salary and draft picks they gave up. But that's what they had to do. You know, Muji knows what they're fighting against, so we had to do that.
And the other part, by the way, guys, hit us up in the comments. We're on Twitter streaming live at Ty D Butler, at Rich Cimini. We're streaming there on YouTube as well. The other thing that I saw was last offseason, you pointed this out. The Jets were interested in trading for Geno Smith. So to what, like, how far did that go? And I guess it's easy to say in retrospect, like that was a mistake going with Justin Fields over Geno Smith.
Well, I think when Seattle put Geno on the block, Geno wanted a new contract, and the Seahawks weren't going to do that coming off a mediocre year. So, plus they had a new offensive coordinator there with Kubiak who didn't want to work with Geno. So, I think the Jets did look into it. I know they had some encouraging scouting reports from talking to some sources on Geno. I don't think they gave it strong consideration. They would have had to give. I think what the Raiders give up a 3 to get
A
him.
third round, yeah, it was a third rounder.
It was a 3, and they gave him, the extension, the 2 years, $75 million extension. And so I think the Jets felt like Justin Fields being a free agent would have been a cleaner transaction, and so they didn't have to give up any draft picks. And so I think that's why they went in that avenue. Also, Justin being a lot younger, seemingly having more upside at the time, or so we thought. And it didn't work out, but they did have some internal discussions on Geno at the time.
So I never really talked myself into this because I just couldn't imagine the Jets being an attractive destination for him. But Kyler Murray, who obviously has a high ceiling, dealt with injuries. I mean, you got the video game clause in your contract. That's an indictment on you as a quarterback. And maybe the biggest indictment a quarterback can have is like, what's your commitment level? But very intriguing, man. We talk about untapped potential. Yes, he's small, but extremely talented. There's a reason why he was drafted where he was. But that was just never a realistic option for the Jets.
The Jets were interested in him. I don't, gather from the people I talked to, I don't think he had any interest in the Jets whatsoever. I think he'll end up in Minnesota. I think he made it pretty clear to his people that I don't want to go to the Jets. I mean, the Jets aren't a place on the quarterback destination list where you want to go to rehab your career. You go to a place like the Rams or the Vikings or the 49ers or even the Chiefs. I thought Tua might end up going to the Chiefs. He goes to the Falcons where he actually is going to play. So no, I don't think Kyler Murray, and the Jets knew that. They had no shot at Murray. I don't think the Jets were really that interested in Kirk Cousins. I think they were interested in Tua, but I don't think it was mutual. So really, where were the Jets going to go? I mean, Geno, like I said at the top, he's probably the best solution for the problems they were in.
So, and I feel like I know the answer to this, but like, what is that about? The Jets aren't a prime destination. Is that like just the organization? Is that the embarrassment of last year? Aaron Glenn, the lack of faith in Darren Muji and what he's building because like it just started and they were so awful last year. Like if we're creating a pie chart, like how do we divide that?
Yeah, it's more than 1 year. I mean, this is the Jets are like a quarterback cemetery. God bless guys like Sam Darnold, who managed to come back to life after the Jets cemetery, and even Geno Smith. It took him a long time, but Geno finally got to a nice position with Seattle and made a lot of money, to his credit. It's a lot of things. It's the constant change in coaches. It's the constant change in offensive coordinators. What are they? They've had like 11 or 12 offensive coordinators in the last 15 or 16 years. It's just incredible lack of stability. And it's hard to create a system. There's no system. It's like an ever-changing system, and there's no continuity, and it's really hard to develop quarterbacks. I mean, Sam had talent. We knew that. He just wasn't developed properly. And Geno had talent back then. I think we all saw that. He wasn't developed properly. So I think it's just a combination of things. Just the Jets not creating a strong enough infrastructure around the players. So that, to me, goes to ownership. They have in your pie chart, I think ownership would have a big slice of the pie as well, along with just the lack of continuity in coaching staff and bad draft decisions. I think that's how you would split it up.
So speaking of the coaching staff that they overhauled, I'm just appalled. So there was a chance that the Jets OC-DC combo was going to be two guys who spent the last couple years not in the NFL with Frank Reich. And then the defensive coordinator that they wanted to hire. Why am I blanking on his name?
Wink
Wink
Martindale.
Martindale. Yeah, Wink Martindale. Like, is that a big deal? Am I reading too much into that, or is that as alarming to me as it is to you?
I don't think that would have been. I mean, Wink was out for 2 years. He was coaching at Michigan. Frank was out for 2 years. He did coach this past year at Stanford. Yeah, I don't think that would have been a huge deal. I mean, that was a very, I use the word clunky a lot. It was a very clunky process, the whole coaching staff overhaul. But I actually think they ended up in a good place. I think Frank Reich is what they needed. And I wrote this, other people wrote this. At the end of the season, I said they need a guy like a quarterback whisperer, someone with a quarterback background who sees the game through the quarterback's eyes. And they went out and got Frank Reich, which, it took them long enough. They were, flirting with Engstrand and finally decided to go mutually part ways. But I think Frank will be good. I think he's a good play caller. He knows what he wants. I don't think he has any aspirations to be a head coach. So I think he'll fit in nicely. And I think Aaron Glenn calling plays is okay. It's got to be better than Steve Wilkes. So anything's better than Steve Wilkes. So I think they ended up in a good place.
Do you think this Carson Wentz thing happens at some point in the next day or so?
I do. I would not be surprised, that could happen at any moment. It makes too much sense. Anytime there's a new coordinator on an NFL team, they always like to have someone in the room that knows their offense. That way it's the quarterback who knows he can teach it to the other quarterbacks. So Wentz has been with Frank Reich a couple of times in Philly and Indy. And I think he would come in as the number 2. I don't think there would be any controversy in the beginning. He would be the number 2 and he would know the offense. And it just, in OTAs, it just helps so much when you have a quarterback who knows the language, who knows what the coach is thinking and how he's thinking. And so that's why I think Wentz makes a lot of sense. He has not played good football, much like Geno, for a few years.
Yeah.
Probably hasn't played nearly as much good football as Geno in his career, but it looks like they're probably going to go that way.
Ty Simpson, is that the 16th pick, number 16th pick for the Jets? I believe Vegas now has the Jets as the favorites to land him. You think he goes 16?
Oh boy, it's way too early for me to have any intel on that. I would say if I had to say now, I would probably lean against it.
Okay.
I think the Jets the way things are shaping up this year, it looks like they're pretty committed to getting that long-term answer in the 27 draft.
Okay.
So if he were there at 33, could they take him at 33? I guess maybe, but they're really counting on those top 4 draft picks for the top 44 to get 4 starting players. And despite all the free agent moves they've made, they still need 4 good players to come in. And I'd be a little surprised if they went with Simpson there in either one of those spots, 16 or 33. And I think he's going to get picked probably in the teens somewhere. I think by the time the draft comes, how quarterbacks go, they rise right up. So if I had to bet now, I would say no.
So here's what's perplexing to me about what you just said. They are essentially looking at the 2027 draft as where they could find their quarterback. These guys might not be around in 2027 if this thing goes sideways this year. So how do you marry those two philosophies if you're Bougie and Glenn? Now, obviously, you have the utmost confidence in yourself that, we're going to win games this year. We'll be here. But, I mean, the reality is there's a chance you're not.
Well, Ty Simpson is not going to help Aaron Glenn keep his job this year. Because if you drafted Ty Simpson, he may not even see the field this year. He's got only 15 career starts at Alabama. He needs a lot of seasoning. So, if they're arguing in the draft room, Aaron Glenn would seemingly be arguing not to take Ty Simpson. He needs a position player to come in there and help right away. If you have a choice at 16 between like a Mekhi Lemon or Jordan Tyson or Ty Simpson, you're probably going to take the wide receiver there. He's going to come in and help you right away. So now Muji might be thinking more long-term. That's his job as the GM, is to think more long-term. And so if they fall in love with, I know he had a really good interview with them at the Combine. He's a very polished kid. He's very smart. He's a coach's son. So you expect all those things. And I mean, if he comes in, they'll probably bring him in on a 30 visit. If he blows them away, who knows? Maybe they take the shot, but I still would be very surprised if they do that.
And I look, I am not like disagreeing with the idea of that, because like you said, man, we know the history of quarterbacks with that little experience. And also he was bad the last half of the season. Now he attributes it to nagging injuries. He lost up to like 30 pounds. And so yeah, that can explain some of it, but I just don't know how you feel great about drafting him high if you're the Jets. And so, like, who are the other quarterbacks that you think, because they're going to have to, they didn't take a quarterback last year, they're going to have to take somebody this year.
Yeah, I would think like in the 4th or 5th round, something like that. Drew Aller from Penn State is kind of the prototype of what Frank likes in a quarterback, a bigger, more pocket passer. He obviously had the injury last year, didn't play a whole lot at Penn State, but I thought he did well at the Combine. I think a developmental player like that would be someone to bring into the fold and have him as your 3rd quarterback this year. I could definitely see something like that. The thing about next year, and you kind of raise this point, it is somewhat of a gamble, because just because you have 3 first-round picks next year doesn't mean you're automatically getting, one of the top quarterbacks. I mean, because let's look at it. Miami's going to be in the quarterback market next year. Arizona's going to be in the quarter market. The Jets are going to be in the market. Cleveland's probably going to be in the market. So right away you have 4 teams that are looking
maybe
for
Carolina. Maybe Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how things go this year, but I think 4 teams for sure. And so that's risky. I mean, if those 4 teams or those 3 teams end up drafting ahead of you, you could have a situation like we had a couple of years ago when it was Caleb, Jaden, and Drake May, and no one could crack that top 3. No one could trade their way into that top 3 because those teams were locked in on those guys. So the Jets do run that risk, but I think they're willing to take that risk now.
And it's funny you bring that up, because I was hosting the afternoon show on ESPN New York with Jake Asman, and I mentioned Kirk Cousins, and this was before we knew there was like no mutual interest. I mentioned Kirk Cousins would be the perfect guy to come in and ruin the Jets' 2027 draft chances, because they'll win like 7 or 8 games. And he's like, well, they got 3 first-round picks. And I said, having the draft capital is excellent. That draft capital only goes so far because you need teams to trade, that pick to you. And if you're behind quarterback needy teams, it's just not going to work. And so that's what makes the Geno Smith thing so fascinating, because you pointed out in your article, which, by the way, you had a line I want to bring up that was perfect, and it makes you who you are, about the Fitzpatrick season in 2015. You said something about they had a get punched in the mouth, but they're punched in the mouth but at the quarterback position. I want to get the line because it's awesome. But it's the same thing. You worry Geno could win you too many games if he comes in and looks like the guy he did a couple of years ago.
Well, look at this. The Geno's helped teams. So, he left Seattle and they get Sam Darnold. They win a Super Bowl. He goes to the Raiders. They lose a bunch of games, and now they get Mendoza. So maybe the Jets will lead the Jets to Arch Manning or Dante Moore next year. So who knows? But look, I know Jets fans some of them want the Jets to tank this year. The Jets aren't tanking. I mean, they're going to try to. I mean, the coach has got to win games. You're trying to get your program turned around. They're not going to tank. I mean, Geno's the best. Like I said, he was the best they could get, which is sad, like you said, but he's the best they could get. And it's not because there's just no one else out. I know Muji called almost every team in the league asking about their quarterback. I know that. He called all those teams with the young guys like Tanner McKee and Mac Jones and all the other names we were speculating.
Mills, Andy Dalton, Davis Mills.
Well, I don't know about Dalton, but I know he talked to like almost every team, and the asking prices were ridiculous. So, you know, anyway, let's see. Hold on a
Uh-oh.
second.
Uh-oh. We have some
Oh,
news.
the Jets just signed a kicker.
Okay.
You know,
That's some news.
yeah, the Cade York.
Oh, okay. Cade York. Not former Niner?
Yeah.
Former Niner. Okay.
Yeah, so the thing with Nick Folk was interesting. That was like one of the things that surprised me about free agency. I thought he was coming back, but I from what I gather from talking to people, I think the Jets just lowballed him. They
Oh,
really
really?
did. Yeah, I don't think he was too happy about that, and I think they probably offered him what he made last year, which was about 2.8, and Eddie Pinheiro just got like 4.2 a year. So I'm sure he was looking for something over 4 million. I don't know what he got from the Falcons yet, but I'm betting it's at least 4. And so the Jets respond with Cade York. So
Cade York, Browns, Commanders, Bengals. Those were his stops so far
yeah,
since 2022. So the
yeah,
Jets.
He's been around the block a little bit, but all kickers have. The Jets had an amazing special teams unit last year. You hate to see that get broken up a little bit, but I thought Nick Folk was damn near perfect last year, 28 for 29 and perfect on PATs. So that one surprised me. I thought for sure he was coming back.
It's depressing. Nick Folk responsible for the last Jet field goal in the playoff game, and now he's gone. Here's the line, Rich, that I thought was perfect. Ironically, the Jets are looking to him, Geno, to deliver a Fitzpatrick-like season. No one got slugged this time, but something is broken. The Jets quarterback position.
Yeah.
You are indeed pretty talented, man.
Well,
I
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the Jets are hoping for now. I mean, when Fitz got in there, after the Geno incident, no one really thought, Fitz was the ultimate journeyman, and it was Fitz magic that year, as you know.
yeah.
He just caught fire. He had a couple of really good wide receivers in Marshall and Decker, and he had a good running back that year in Chris Ivory, and the defense was okay, was solid enough. And Demario Davis was on that defense.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a funny business the way things work out.
All right, so last couple of things I have for you. The Jets. Listen, I actually like the offseason thus far, and I think the context of my assessment of liking it is just looking at it through the lens of, listen, one of the worst teams in football tried to make some improvements to be better and not as bad. So, Nashawn Wright, Joseph Asai, added to that defense with the Jermaine Johnson trade, specifically talking about Asai. Like, he is a guy who is going to help them improve upon that sack number last year that was second fewest in the NFL, 26. You've got Tavondre Sweat, the trade, Minka Fitzpatrick, Demario Davis, you just talked about. So they've added to this defense. I like what they've done. Still a long way to go. You got the draft, first 44 picks. You got 4 of them of your own. But so far, I think I like what this Jet defense looks like, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, here's the way I would assess free agency so far. I think the Jets are much improved on defense in the short term. I'm going to add that qualifier in there because if you look, basically a lot of short-term deals for guys who are 30 and over. You got Minka's in his age 30 season. Of course, Demario Davis is 37. Who else? Onyemata's 34, I believe. So they're old. They're Band-Aids. And so I think they will be an improved defense short term. That's what the draft is for the long term, that they're going to have to hit on some draft picks to secure their long term. But in the short term, there's no question they're better. I think Asai is basically your new Jermaine Johnson. I think he slides into there. He's not a big sack guy. He's had 5 the last couple of years. Neither was Jermaine Johnson. So I think you're probably, you're looking at someone in the 5 to 7, 8 sack range. That's what he's going to be. So that was your Jermaine Johnson. I think you're better against the run with Onyemata and Sweat. I think Onyemata is a really interesting guy. I think they played him out of position last year in Atlanta. They had him on the nose as a one technique, and I think the Jets see him as a guy who can play defensive end in 5 technique in a 3-4. So they could be lining up in a 3-4 with Onyemata and Sweat in the middle, and I don't know who the other end would be at this point. Maybe they use Asai at the other end, and then on linebackers you have I think they're going to draft Arvell Reese or David Bailey, and then you got Will McDonald outside, and inside you got DeMario and Jamin Sherwood. So it's a better front seven. I think Minkah Fitzpatrick will really help the back end. He's just a really cerebral player, a good leader type guy. And that's the thing. Their defense last year just there was a severe lack of leadership. Just being around the team, I didn't get any sense that there was any accountability on defense. I think there was some bad attitudes on defense, and I think Aaron Glenn knows that. And he basically executed a personality transplant on defense this offseason by bringing in quality people like DeMario and Minkah and David Onyemata. I heard Joseph Asai, a really hardworking guy, a good guy. So he has changed the personality of the defense, because last year's personality, it was a bad vibe. The players didn't like some of their coaches. There was a lack of discipline on the field. I think they'll clean that stuff up this year.
That would be great. Sean Wright, home run or bust, because he does get a lot of interceptions, but he gives up some big plays.
He does. He got 5 picks, but he also gave up 5 touchdowns. His coverage metrics are kind of pedestrian, average to slightly below average if you look at some of the intricate numbers they put out these days. But he makes plays on the ball, and we know the Jets. Everybody knows the stat: 0 interceptions last year. Obviously, there was not a huge market for Nahshon Wright. They got him for $3.5 million on a 1-year deal. So that tells you that there was some hesitancy in the market to go after a guy like him, which surprised me a little bit, because anytime a corner gets 5 interceptions, usually he has a pretty good market, and that market didn't develop for Nahshon Wright.
What's your feel on Brandon Stevens after his first year?
I thought he was okay. I think by the time he got to the games, I think the expectations of the fan base were so low, because we had written all about what he did in Baltimore and his metrics. He didn't have a great year in Baltimore, and he had no interceptions. And so I think the expectations were so low that he came in and he actually played okay. He didn't get any interceptions, but he had some PBUs. I thought he played well against the run. I think he'll be one of the starters again, obviously. And the other side will probably be either Nahshon Wright. I think it'll be a competition there. You got Az Thomas, who showed some promise last year, but had shoulder surgery. So I don't know where his status is right now. So I think there'll be a competition between those two.
Last Jet question I have for you, Breece Hall.
Yeah.
So can I just say this, and it might be a generational thing, because I'm younger than the guys I heard critiquing the tweet. I don't care what he's tweeting. We're in an age of social media. It's entertaining. It's fun. That's how people communicate. Kevin Durant, spent All-Star break in the midst of some big Twitter controversy. So look, as a fan, as a media member, I don't get too wrapped up in that. But clearly he's frustrated. He wants a long-term contract. Where do things stand? How do you see this thing going? And is there some friction between him and the Jet front office?
Yeah, he's very active on social media. We know that. It kind of reminds me of Jamal Adams a little bit. Jamal was that way back in the day. I recently spoke to Jamal, actually caught up with him after a few years, which was very, very enjoyable. Yeah, I didn't like the tweet. I'm old school, Ty. We're from different. You're the younger generation. Yeah. I'm a little older. I'm a lot older. But so I didn't think it was that great. He's obviously frustrated. I don't think they're that far apart. I think that Kenneth Walker deal with Kansas City gives you a really good framework of what this is going to look like. Walker signed for about 14.2 a year. He basically signed for what the franchise tender is, Walker, 14.2. And so I think Breece will get just right about that, or maybe slightly more. So for Brees, it'll probably be, 3 years, 45, something like that. I can't believe it shouldn't be that hard a deal to do. I think the framework is there. The Jets value him. It shouldn't be that hard, really. And I just don't think it's not the front burner right now. And maybe that's where Brees' frustration came from, because they got so many other things going on. The last thing they need to do right now is negotiate with a guy who they know they could negotiate with up until July 15th. So it'll be after the draft. I would predict they'll get a deal done. Maybe it'll go right to July 15th. Sometimes these deals do that, but I think they'll get a deal done.
Last one. We're both Syracuse guys. Tough day, man. You got to look at your program in the face and see you're not as good as we once saw you. Red Autry gets fired.
Yeah.
Maybe so I'm in a group chat with some of my friends, and maybe we're just being ultra dramatic, but it's like, man, are we ever going to be good again? We've just fallen just so precipitously. It's bad.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about it. I was having a conversation with another Syracuse grad this morning, and did we make a mistake by going to the ACC? At the time, I thought it was a good move. It was the program was strong at the time, and I thought we could compete with those guys. They did it because of football, obviously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in football, we can't really compete. Every couple of years, every third year, fourth year, we have a good year in football. But they did it for football revenue, and they just couldn't keep up in basketball. And it's really started under Boeheim, so he really deserves some blame too. The program started to slide, and it's been a mess the last 3 years. Autry, I appreciate what he did for the program as a player. He was a fantastic player, but I watched some of the games, and I don't watch nearly as many as I used to because it's just hard to watch. And I think they have to take a really hard look at the entire program, the whole NIL situation. They have to put more money into it. And so I don't know. Who do you want? Do you want Jerry McNamara to come back, or do you want them to start fresh and go outside the program?
I think you got to start fresh, go outside the program, get some new blood in here. Like, I understand tradition and culture, Syracuse, because I even brought up like Mike Hopkins, letting him go. That was a controversial move. When him and Boeheim had, I guess, disagreed on what the timeline was. But just get somebody in here who knows what the hell they're doing. It's innovative, and just realizing that the culture of college sports has drastically changed. And so, you need someone to freshen up what's going on there and just get them back on track, because it's embarrassing. It really is.
Yeah, who would ever thought that you would turn on TV and see a half-empty dome?
Oh, my goodness.
I saw that. Yeah, I was there, and I'm sure you were there too, when there were 30,000 people in that place, and you're sitting out in the obstructed view area about 100 yards away. And I think we can get back to that. I think it's going to take a very energetic, maybe younger type coach to come in there and just get the community excited again, and just get things going in the right direction.
Just go back to cheating. Just go back to cheating.
Now everyone can spend money back. Are you suggesting that we may have crossed a line or two back in the day?
Listen, if you ain't cheating, then you ain't trying. Jason Tatum, who obviously just made his return to the Celtics in the NBA, I was actually at his only game played at the Carrier Dome, which ended with a John Gillen buzzer beater for Syracuse. So you talk about being there when there was some electricity, being there for that game and seeing what it is now. It's just a complete mess. But Rich,
I was there for a Michael Jordan game in North Carolina. They were playing it wasn't against Syracuse. It was a regional one year. And I remember it was me and another reporter interviewing Jordan during their practice day at the Dome. And it's that would never happen now. It was just two guys interviewing one player. We're interviewing Michael Jordan. And I remember we're interviewing him, and Dean Smith was blowing the whistle to get the practice started. And Michael kept on talking to us until after a couple of times, Dean Smith screamed, "Michael!" And he got up and he shot out of that chair and he ran right into the practice.
Oh, man.
So that was my one brush with greatness with Michael Jordan.
That's awesome. That's awesome,
Yep.
Rich. I know you got to get out of here. I really
All right.
appreciate you. Um, just one final thing, I promise, because you're the old school guy, and I know football is your beat, but
Yeah.
you pay attention to the biggest stories in sports. Bam Adebayo scored 83 points last night. I don't know how brushed up on it you
I
are,
watched
but
the end of the. I was watching the end of the game.
how do you feel about that? Is it like too unethical for your appetite?
I mean, I just caught the last couple of minutes of the game.
Well, he
You know, I
shot
would.
43 free throws, and people are mad because Miami was intentionally fouling to, get him get him an opportunity to break the record. They're up 30. So people just thought it was like inorganic. Like, are you someone who buys into that, or are you just like he broke one of the records? It's pretty cool.
How many? Here's a question: how many free throws did Kobe have when he had the 81-point game?
Kobe shot 20, I think it was 17 of 20.
So that's really not that many
Yeah,
compared.
36 of 43 for Bam.
Yeah, so that's a little bit. I mean, what did Wilt have in the 100 game? How many
Will
free
had
throws?
Will I believe was in the 20s as well.
Yeah, that's really not
And no
that much.
3-point line too.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's no video of that game, but it's like one of the greatest moments ever. And there's no video. Ernie Accorsi, the former Giants GM, was at that game.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, I think he was covering. He was a sports writer. He was covering it for a smaller newspaper. It was in Hershey, Pennsylvania,
Oh,
and
nice. I know that.
yeah, so he witnessed it. But yeah, I'm not a huge NBA guy, but I was watching the end of the game last night. So I thought the fans were into it. Obviously, made for a great TV moment, but I guess it is a little bit artificial.
Awesome. Rich, I appreciate you. I will talk to you soon. Shout out to you. Kudos to you. Thanks so
All
much.
right,
And keep doing great work, man.
all right. Always a pleasure, Ty. Anytime. Take care.
Absolutely. That was Rich Cimini. Always does a tremendous job. Love talking to him. We went 30 minutes deep. I didn't want to keep him that long because free agency's happening. He's getting text messages. Cade York just signed with the Jets. And so a lot happening, obviously, a lot of news being broken. So I appreciate Rich for joining the show. We'll definitely have him on again as we get closer to the draft. Still a lot to happen, but yeah, great stuff. That will do it for us today. I appreciate you guys hopping on and hanging out with me. Shout out to y'all. At Ty D Butler is where you can find me on the social media platforms. Um, YouTube, obviously, subscribe to the channel if you are on YouTube watching me now, or if you catch this on the playback, subscribe to the channel Ty D Butler. Hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We get the social media videos popping. So appreciate you guys for tuning into the show. I'll be back later. I've got an NBA show I'm doing tonight with a reporter from The Guardian. We're going to talk some hoops. And I mentioned at the end of this interview the Bam Adebayo 83-point game, which is the biggest story in the NBA right now. So we'll be on later for that. But until then, peace and love to you guys. And I will talk to you soon. Deuces.